All right, let's dive into the Avatamsaka Sutra. Now, this isn't going to be a 101 level introduction. Think of this more as a calibration tool, almost like an operator's guide for those of you who are already on the path. We're not here to go over the basics. We're here to fine-tune our own internal system. So the sutra gets right to the heart of one of the deepest questions you can ask. Forget the statues, forget all the stories for just a second. Right now, in real time, how does an awakened consciousness actually work? What's going on under the hood? We're not looking for a static definition here. We're trying to understand a living, dynamic process.
And here's the first huge mind shift the text gives us. It doesn't just hand you a dry dictionary definition of Buddha. No, instead, it's like it pulls back the curtain and shows you the entire system in action. It's a live demonstration, and to really get it, we have to be willing to drop our old ways of thinking.
This really frames the jump we have to make. You know, our default setting, our old cognition, is to think of a Buddha as an object, right? A person, a historical figure, someone over there. But the sutra asks us to upgrade our model. It says, think of Buddha as a real-time, awakened operating system, vast, interconnected, and running everywhere all at once.
So let's just nail this down, because it's crucial. The sutra defines Buddha not as a being, but as a state of being. To be specific, it's the awakened, fully functional, totally unimpeded operational state of the entire cosmos. It's not some place you have to get to, it's the very fabric of reality itself functioning just as it's meant to, with all the glitches.
Okay, so how on earth do we even begin to grasp something that huge? Well, the sutra gives us these, you could almost call them lines of code, key phrases that are designed to trigger a total reboot of our understanding. We're going to look at 3 of these that are meant to completely reframe how we see everything.
Let's start with this one, and just take a second. Let that really sink in. In a single pour, countless Buddhas from countless worlds are seated. I know, it sounds like something straight out of science fiction, totally paradoxical. But here's the key. It's not actually about cosmology.
The whole point of a sentence like that is to break our mind's addiction to scale. It's trying to show us that in this awakened operating system, our normal concepts like big and small or inside and outside just aren't fixed rules anymore. They can exist at the same time in the same place. It's meant to force a hard reboot on our perception.
This rewiring of our perception continues with the next quote. This one tackles the question of how awakening actually shows up, how it manifests. And the answer is, it's not a one-size-fits-all experience. It appears in a way that is perfectly tailored to the mind that's doing the perceiving.
And just like that, the ball is right back in our court. If we aren't perceiving this awakened reality, it's not because the broadcast is down. It's because our own receiver, our mind, isn't tuned to the right frequency. The signal is constant. It's our own perception that needs the adjustment.
And this last quote, this is the ultimate reframe. It takes us beyond form entirely. It says that the body of an awakened being isn't made of flesh and bone. Its body is the Dharma itself, the fundamental truth, the very structure and law of reality. Now, this might be the most profound shift for any of us on this path. Awakening isn't being driven by a little personal I inside, an ego pulling levers. It's about that I finally getting out of the way so that the structure of truth itself can operate without any friction. And that changes the whole goal of our practice, doesn't it? It's no longer about I'm trying to build myself into a Buddha. It's about how can I learn to stop getting in the way?
Okay, I know this is all very high-level, mind-bending stuff. But the amazing part is, the sutra doesn't just leave us floating in the abstract. It brings it right down to earth and gives us a practical user manual for applying this new operating system in our daily lives.
And it really boils down to 3 core practices, 3 subtle but incredibly powerful shifts in how we approach everything. First, we're going to reframe our actions. Second, we'll reframe our goals. And third, we have to reframe what we even mean by effort. So let's break these down.
The first reframe is all about action. It's this slight shift in your inner voice from, I am doing this, to something more like, the Dharma is operating through this. When you're working or making a choice, you can actually ask yourself, am I just trying to muscle through this with my own personal force, or am I aligning with the natural flow of how this wants to happen? True efficiency, it turns out, comes from going with the grain. The second reframe is about our goals. And this is a big one. It's so easy to fall into the trap of chasing states. Looking for those flashes of light, special feelings, those peak spiritual highs.
But the sutra points us in a different direction, cultivating a state. The real way to measure progress isn't the occasional flashy experience. It's asking, is my ordinary daily life becoming more transparent? Am I less reactive? Is my mind more stable? That's the true sign the new operating system is integrated.
And finally, we have to reframe effort. The sutra talks about the immense power of a single thought moment of a Buddha. But that power doesn't come from being forceful. It comes from being pure. And purity here doesn't mean anything pious or special. It simply means a thought with less baggage, less self-interest, less fear, less attachment gumming up the works. The goal isn't to have a stronger thought, but a clearer one.
So after all this complex theory and all these subtle practices, everything gets distilled down into one single potent question. Think of it as your personal self-calibration tool, a way to check your internal compass anytime, anywhere.
And here it is. This is the question to ask yourself. In the middle of your day, in a stressful meeting, when you're stuck in traffic, am I trying to make the world revolve around me, or am I learning to revolve with the cosmos? And the answer, well, it's usually brutally honest. It immediately tells you if you're operating from that small, contracted ego, or if you're trying to align with that vast, open flow.
And really, this is the ultimate takeaway. The whole point of this new operating system isn't to plan an escape. Awakening is not about leaving this world for some better one. It's the moment that this world, in all of its complexity and all of its beauty, finally begins to operate unimpeded right through you.